Welcome back, coin enthusiasts. You're watching NT Coins World, where we dive into the fascinating world of numismatics, exploring rare, valuable, and historic coins. In today's video, we will be taking a deep look at two Lincoln cents that have captured the attention of collectors due to their historical significance, potential errors, and of course, their market value. We'll be discussing the 1968 D Lincoln cent in fine condition and the 1973 Lincoln cent, also in fine condition. These two coins, though seemingly ordinary, could be worth far more than you might think. So let's get into it. The 1968 D Lincoln cent is a fascinating coin, especially when you consider its history, mintage, and potential for errors. Before we dive into the specifics of this coin, let's briefly touch on the historical context. The 1968 Lincoln cent was part of the U.S. Mint's regular circulation coinage, and by this time, Abraham Lincoln's image had been featured on the penny for over 60 years. The design by Victor David Brenner, which was first struck in 1909, remained unchanged until the redesigns that occurred much later. The 1968 cent marks a pivotal time in the history of the penny, as it was produced during a period of transition, with copper being the primary material used in the minting process. Now, let's talk about the 1968 D Lincoln cent. Specifically, the D mint mark indicates that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the busiest coin production facilities in the country. In terms of mintage, the 1968 D Lincoln cent is not particularly rare, with over 4.3 billion of these coins being struck that year. This high mintage means that in general, you can still find these pennies in circulation today. However, finding one in fine condition, as we're focusing on today, is not as easy as it sounds. Coins in fine condition typically show moderate wear, but the features are still clearly defined. For a 1968 D Lincoln cent in fine condition, the wear should be noticeable, but the date, mint mark, and Lincoln's profile will remain legible. Fine condition coins are often collected as a more affordable alternative to higher grade examples, making them ideal for collectors who are just starting or who want a more budget-friendly piece for their collection. While this coin is not as rare as some of the other pennies we've discussed on this channel, it still has a significant place in the market. Typically, a 1968 D Lincoln cent in fine condition can be valued around 15 cents to 30 cents, depending on factors like overall demand and the coin's individual characteristics. However, if you happen to stumble upon one with a mint error, such as a double die or a die crack, the value could skyrocket. The double die errors on the 1968 D Lincoln cent are particularly sought after by collectors. These errors occur when the coin's die is misaligned during the minting process, causing a slight duplication of the features, such as Lincoln's portrait or the lettering. A well-preserved 1968 D Lincoln cent with a double die could fetch anywhere from $100 to $500 in the collector's market, depending on the intensity of the doubling and the condition of the coin. More extreme examples, particularly those with strong, visible doubling, could command even higher prices, approaching $1,000 or more for a well-preserved piece. Additionally, the 1972 doubled die reverse variety often gets confused with coins from 1968. So if you think your 1968 D might show a similar error, it's always worth getting it professionally graded. Speaking of grading, when you compare the 1968 D Lincoln cent in fine condition to other grades, you'll find that the value can increase significantly as the coin's grade improves. A coin graded as MS65, for instance, could be valued at $3 to $5 for a regular example, while a high-quality double die specimen in that grade could easily reach into the hundreds, depending on market trends. Now that we've discussed the 1968 D Lincoln cent, let's shift gears and look at the 1973 Lincoln cent, also in fine condition. The 1973 penny carries its own unique historical and numismatic significance. By the time the 1973 cent was struck, the U.S. Mint had already been transitioning away from the use of large quantities of silver in coinage and toward using more copper and copper alloy materials. The year 1973 marked a time of economic change, and the U.S. government was beginning to consider ways to deal with inflation and rising costs, which would eventually affect the penny and other circulating coins. Mintage for the 1973 Lincoln cent was relatively high, with over 3.7 billion of these coins produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The 1973 coin, like the 1968 D, was struck with the traditional Lincoln design that had been used since 1909. The only real change was in the composition and slight adjustments in the minting process to deal with the fluctuating demand for copper. However, even with these large numbers finding a fine condition, 1973 Lincoln cent is still somewhat rare, as coins in this state of preservation have survived the test of time with minimal wear. In fine condition, a 1973 Lincoln cent should show signs of wear on Lincoln's portrait and the lettering, but the details should remain discernible. In terms of market value, a 1973 Lincoln cent in fine condition typically holds a value of 10 cents to 30 cents. This is relatively modest when compared to coins from earlier years with lower mintage figures. However, as with any coin, factors like mint errors can dramatically increase its value. One of the most interesting varieties for the 1973 Lincoln cent is the potential for double die errors. Much like the 1968 D, the 1973 cent can exhibit double die obverses and double die reverses, where the lettering and date show additional faint impressions due to issues during the minting process. Coins with these errors in fine condition can fetch between $50 to $200, depending on how pronounced the doubling is and the coin's overall appeal. If the doubling is particularly strong, or if the coin is in a higher grade, the value can rise significantly, possibly exceeding $500 for a well-preserved error specimen. Collectors have been particularly keen on seeking out varieties of the 1973 cent with these types of minting flaws, as they are somewhat rarer and make for an interesting addition to a collection. Additionally, uncirculated examples of the 1973 Lincoln cent can hold more value than their fine condition counterparts. An MS-65 or higher grade 1973 Lincoln cent might be valued at $2 to $4, and if the coin exhibits a die crack or die clash, the value could increase significantly, especially among error collectors. So there you have it, two seemingly simple Lincoln cents that could be worth much more than face value. Whether you have a 1968 D Lincoln cent in fine condition or a 1973 Lincoln cent, it's essential to understand the factors that can influence their market value, including mintage, errors, and overall preservation. These coins represent just a small slice of the fascinating world of US coinage, where small details like mint errors or slight variations can turn a regular coin into a highly valuable collector's item. If you happen to have either of these coins, or you're considering adding them to your collection, be sure to carefully inspect for any minting flaws or double dies, as these could dramatically increase their value. And remember, no matter what condition your coins are in, they hold a unique historical place in the story of American currency. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to NT Coins World for more numismatic insights, and leave a comment below if you've ever come across a rare Lincoln cent or any other coin with an exciting story to tell. As always, happy collecting, and I'll see you next time on NT Coins World.